Friday night edition. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys for being here. Not a lot of people dropping on in the chat early. That's okay. We're going to dive on into it and check out the hottest setups in the game. We're going to start where we do every single day with the BTC, baby. Good old Bitcoin, the greatest asset in the world, in my opinion. Just a quick glance at the bubbles in the past 24 hours. Definitely a mixture of red and green across the market. More red throughout the altcoins, despite Bitcoin having a meteoric day, pushing across. And I don't care if you're in the alts, I don't care if you're in Bitcoin, I don't care if you're in stocks. Bitcoin being above this level is critical for this market to keep moving forward, for your altcoins to bounce and have that meteoric run that you're hoping for. Bitcoin needs to hold this level, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Bitcoin here, and I was analyzing this on the smaller time frames, had this in a little bit of a flag earlier, got that reaction. Not in any leverage trades at the moment besides that swing long position we are building on Ondo, and right now we had a flag pop up to the upside and come down to that 786 retracement on the Fibonacci. Looks okay. With that being said, we do have no volume here in the market anymore. Ever since the US session closed, we've had a bit of a pullback here for BTC. Ever since that 1530 closing bell, baby. Oh, something in my eye. Ever since that 1530 closing bell, we have had a bit of a retrace of about $1,000 or 1% on Bitcoin. And man, it seems to be the narrative now. You have a 1% drop on Bitcoin, your favorite altcoin is going to drop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%. And, some of these, like Bitcoin falls a percent, and you could have some of your altcoins fall pretty massively in a very short amount of time. With that being said, some of the hotter memes, Virtual still taking off today, does not care about the market, does not care about Bitcoin, seems to be doing a thing of its own, up 225% this month. We called the reversal last month on Virtuals. We did dip a little lower than that, but boom, baby, we got the reversal to the upside for almost a 3x, honestly a 4x here on Virtuals if you did get in down there at the bottom at about 42 cents. Sui continues to pull back after its historic run, and man, some of the altcoins we're going to jump on into today, I'm excited to share with you guys. So Bitcoin, baby, Bitcoin. Let's pull this up on the daily, and I'm going to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. Let's get rid of this flag on the daily time frame representing 24 hours of time, baby, breaking out of what is truly a beautiful bull flag. We had a nice bull flag form here. Honestly, I thought we were going to wait a little longer and wait for this 21-day moving average to catch up the price action, and that is still a valid scenario. The bull flag here, I'll show you guys, for those of you who have not popped into the stream before, this bull flag here on the daily, and a lot of traders are tracking this. This isn't something special. This is something that has been forming over the past week on BTC. We got that consolidation, and we had that non-farm payroll come out today and say, hey, the damage from the tariffs really is, from a news perspective, negligible. We had a massive amount of jobs getting added to the United States today, baby. Today, non-farm payroll, an additional 40,000 jobs added more than, economists expected. And that does gives me the feeling that these analysts, do they really know what's going on with all sorts of uncertainty that's in the market, the tariffs, everything, everywhere? Do they really get a full grasp of what's going on? It leads me to question these expectations, if you will, because it's going to cause really volatile market reactions as we've seen today if the expectation is too far away from the actual number. And we got that today. They hit unemployment on the nose, but showing that there's more jobs, more payrolls opening up, non-farm payrolls opening up, that's really, really good for the economy, saying that companies are still hiring, we're still bringing people on, not really worried about the inflation side of producing any kind of product. So that's really interesting to me. all this wage data was absolutely negligible. These, factory orders, hourly wages, unemployment rate, negligible, right? Even if they came in at expected, that really doesn't move the market too much. But man, did they get it wrong on non-farm payroll today, and the market responded with a giant green candle there at 8:30 a.m. And really since then, we didn't look back. Since the closing bell, we may be retracing a little bit on futures, but we'll check that in a little bit. Bitcoin, baby, getting that massive rip on the daily, and we are at right now as we speak that critical level that we've been talking about here on the channel day in and day out, baby, day in and day out. Let's look at what we did here from the VRVP perspective. Let's zoom in and just take this range that we are trading in. So this VRVP, based off of the visible candles that you can see, this range that we have here, this shows the amount of Bitcoin that has been traded at that price, the amount of Bitcoin that has exchanged hands. Not a lot of Bitcoin exchanged hands down here comparatively to where we stand right now. The highest node here, the highest node or the highest candle on this VRVP represents the point of control, or the greatest amount of volume that is transacted for Bitcoin at a certain price, and we are on that point of control. If you remember back here, the point of control, we were here and the bulls and the bears duked it out for 2 weeks. It was painful. It was absolutely painful. We were sitting here, I remember on the stream, we were just like, come on, Bitcoin, do something. And we just sat here in agony as the altcoins bled, man. The altcoins bled, Bitcoin took that nosedive, and we had one of the biggest cascades we've had in altcoin and Bitcoin history. And, you could say, oh, on February 3rd was the biggest liquidation event. I totally agree, but Bitcoin held up. The altcoins didn't seem to be able to recover and have just gone on a downward trajectory since then. We're going to look at Bitcoin dominance and see if we're nearing an area of turnaround, if that's likely, and what's going to happen to Bitcoin if it just rips past that 786 on Bitcoin dominance. We'll talk about that. So this bull flag breaking out very beautifully on the daily. I still think there is time here, and it's likely that there is history says, hey, we spent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 days with daily candles touching this point of control the last time we were here, and now we've just had one. I highly doubt that we're going to reject immediately from this area. I expect bulls and bears to again go to war in this region, right? Why? Because this shows that this is the fair value. This is where sellers are saying, hey, I want to get rid of my Bitcoin at these prices, and the bulls are saying this may be my last chance to get Bitcoin beneath $100,000. So that's the push, the yin and the yang, the push and the pull that you're feeling right now for Bitcoin as we push up into this range. And even as you see here on the 15-minute, we got up here and we got that rejection, and this is the exact area. This area right here on the chart, on the daily, that little circle that I drew right there. I know it's kind of strange to see on the 15-minute time frame pulling out to the daily. This is this region of nodes right here. It is going to be imperative that Bitcoin pushes over this. Now you can argue, boys, crypto, we did get above it. We did start rolling down the hill, and we got stopped by that node. Rolling down the hill does not start until we get down here on the hill. We start rolling, and we can start gapping up very, very quick in those gaps in the VRVP. Right now, there's going to be a lot of buying and selling pressure. And when I say a lot, I can't say until Monday a lot. It's likely this Saturday we start getting some choppy price action. I do not see from this closing candle right here. I think on Monday, and I know everybody hates, and I'm talking for Bitcoin specifically, I don't think on Monday we're going to open up for very far away from 96.4. Very far. If we don't open up at 96.4, I expect on Monday for us to take a quick trip back there. Whether we drop, we could have a move like this, and we could have that move to the upside to fill that gap in the CME. I think that's very, very likely. For those of you who don't know what a CME gap is, a CME gap is formed when the Friday candle closes, when there's no volume. So that means you, me, your Uncle Joe, right? You guys and me, we're the only people moving the price of Bitcoin. Why? Because big institutions are closed. Big institutions can't trade according to the SEC on the weekend, right? Unless they're doing it behind, over-the-counter sales and things like that. But that's not going to directly impact the market. So they're closed right now. So those big volumes, right? And when I talk about volume, I could pull that up for you guys. Volume, baby, volume. You could see it here. You could see it on the days whenever we have like a weekend day, you'll see it here. The weekend days are like these days right here. See this Saturday right here? How it was so low volume, and then Sunday low volume, and then Monday, Tuesday, all those bars are a lot higher. The weekend bars are always these small bars here on the weekend on the volume chart. If you see that, the higher the volume, the higher the bar, the more Bitcoin that has been transacted that day or exchanged hands. And here, usually on the weekends, you get none. You can see a weekend here, a weekend here, a weekend here, a weekend here, a weekend here. I don't even need to scroll over it to show that that's a Saturday and a Sunday, baby. That's a Saturday and a Sunday. That's a Saturday and a Sunday. So those candles are relatively low. We had a massive amount of volume come in over the past 2 weeks, actually, for BTC. And it's nice to see these candles holding here on the volume chart, saying that, hey, the bulls are buying Bitcoin even at $90,000 to $96,000. And that's the reason we got that break of the bull flag to the upside. So this bull flag, let me get rid of this volume here. It's not something I normally keep on the chart. So this bull flag, a technical breakout, does take us back to, yes, and it would catch everybody with their pants down. This would take us back to $107,000. Isn't it crazy to think that this past month we were just sitting at 74K, and this asset looks to reclaim the all-time highs from this breakout of this beautiful bull flag here on the daily. That's what I'm looking at. Hey, shout out to each and every single one of you guys in the chat. MH, Wanda, Sin Nasty Kid, thank you guys for being here. Sin Nasty Kid took the Ondo long. Yeah, man, I'm in it too. And honestly, let's take a look at Ondo real quick. MH, I got you, man. QNT, I got you. Quant, I got you, brother. I got you. Just real quick on Ondo, man. You look, we're here. Here we are. We are still, and we've been trading here for 3 days, right? And it's kind of been, I'm not gonna lie, a little frustrating. Still think this, the trade thesis is there. I would like to see a little bit of a stronger reaction off that level, but hey, here we are, and I love what I'm seeing here out of this shoulder, head, right shoulder, this inverted shoulder, head, right shoulder for Ondo. Real quick glance, we had that shoulder. I posted this on X for you guys. Head, right shoulder. This looks immaculate to me. We got that breakout and that classic retest of the neckline. That's what I'm seeing here for Ondo. I think this thing is going to massively take off here in the coming weeks. It has been painful to watch Ondo struggle down at these levels. Since the beginning of May, I see a reversal, a turnaround out of the first higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. I think the next higher high is coming, and I think that will be the one that tests that daily 200 SMA. We cracked the daily 200 SMA, baby, and that's the swing long of the bull market, baby. I think Ondo is going to be a massive player in the real world asset space, making deals with the SEC. And, the last people that got along with the SEC, XRP, baby, and that ripped 5X. I don't see why Ondo can't do something similar, especially if it gets on board with tokenizing the United States treasuries and the stock market. It could happen. We hear about Larry Fink, a big advocator of Ondo. I think that that man gets what he wants. He gets what he wants. If you guys watch the markets, Larry Fink gets what he wants. When he cries it, everybody bends over and makes it happen. It just is the way it is. And Larry Fink wants tokenization. It's coming, and Ondo, the leader in the space after Montreal took the rug pull of the century. If you have Montreal, I'm sorry. Look, I'm sorry, guys. Look, we went over that coin. I don't personally own any, but man, that was a slap in the face to the entire crypto industry. I hope they answer to that in the form of a lawsuit, and those guys get absolutely wrecked. I don't care what the CEO says. I want to see him prove those statements in court that his team did not sell any. Nothing should be able to retrace, especially a coin like Montreal in the top 20 getting absolutely wrecked. Was Montreal not in the top 20? It was, wasn't it? And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, this is Montreal sitting at 141. Man, look at this. On the month, down 93%. Trading up here at man, this is crazy. This is crazy. This was a $6 to $7 billion project. all the way to the depths, man. We are getting some severe rain outside. If I cut out on you guys, I'll be back in the form of another stream. But man, hopefully it's definitely hailing outside. So hopefully Comcast can hold us up, baby. Comcast. Don't recommend. All right, so here we go. Mantra DAO taking that massive drop off. Lost 120 ranks this month. Used to sit at 21. One of the hottest projects in the game. Look at the year. This thing was on a tear, and then in 2 minutes, I think the team sold. I'd like to see that guy step in front of court and prove that he didn't. And, you know, innocent until proven guilty, it's not going to be hard to prove that with on-chain data, baby. I love to see that team get absolutely annihilated. You know, rest in peace, Mantra DAO. What I thought was a very promising project, and that just goes to show risk management and everything, everybody. If you have all your eggs in one basket, and most of my eggs are in Bitcoin, so if Bitcoin gets wrecked, be assured Boy's Crypto is going to get wrecked. But yeah, absolutely crazy to see. I love what I'm seeing for Ondo. I think it's going to be immaculate. Overtaking Mantra DAO as the leading real-world asset aggregator and working with the SEC anytime something gets in the nooks and crannies of the government, baby. That could be some promising moves to the upside. Let's look at Quant for MH. Brother, welcome. Hey, and I think this thing looks like the hottest thing since sliced bread right now. Just looking at it at a glance, you are forming a beautiful bullpen in here on the 2 hour. There are not, in my opinion, any charts that are looking this beautiful right now besides Quant. I think Quant is about to go on a parabolic rally to try to get back up here into this 95-cent region. I think it's likely to happen on this low liquidity weekend, and I'm not just saying that. I have the proof here, man. I have the proof here in the pudding. The 4 hour stochastics are pinned. The 2 hour is looking the curve. When you're just looking at the 2 hour chart, look at that. You get that blue line, that signal line across your mark line, and baby, boom, or the mark line across your signal line, excuse me. The mark line across your signal line, and boom, to the upside, it shows momentum is being taken over by the bulls, and you could go for a serious short squeeze here. Look at this on the daily for Mantra DAO, looking to attack that daily 200 SMA. For those of you who watch this channel, you know how I feel about the daily 200 SMA. This is your do not pass go line. You get above the daily 200 SMA, and look what happened the last time for Mantra DAO, a monumental move to the upside of about 125% on spot, and if you take advantage of leverage, that could be life-changing money for you. So yeah, the daily stochastics, look at that, baby. Woo-hoo! Curving back to the upside. Mantra DAO looking to do some massive damage throughout the weekend. And I know what I say about the weekends is, hey, be careful, and that's true. Anything can happen here on the weekends. Why? Because those institutions aren't in here to support you with the volume that they normally provide on all these assets, right? The institutions, any kind of firm that's invested in your favorite altcoin, they can't buy or sell on you, right? During this time, it is all up to the hands of the people. And when there's areas and times of low liquidity or a stop hunt gets triggered during the weekend, you can see some very big dips or rips, whether you're in the long or short direction. So you can, obviously you can take advantage of those. It's just higher risk trading on the weekends, right? It's higher risk trading on the weekends. So that's what I'm looking at for Quant. It looks beautiful to me, man. One of the hottest charts in the game. Let's look at it on the 1 hour. Let's zoom in on it here. All right, so the 15-minute, man, the 15-minute looks good. It looks ready to go. Look at this. You had a little bit of a cup and handle, baby. Cup, handle. You probably came down to what? A 618, 786 golden pocket Fibonacci from the 618 to 786, baby. You got a beautiful 618 bounce to the dollar. Look at that. To the dollar on the 618. This bounce was your perfect entry point at the bottom of that bullpen. And if you were speculating on that, shout out to you. You got an immaculate, that's a 2% gain, but that's on spot, man. On leverage, that could have been a monumental trade. And if you get that break to the upside out of this bullpen, that could have been a monumental opportunity. Thanks for keeping that on our radar, brother. This looks hot. This looks ready to go throughout the weekend. And of course, Bitcoin needs to hold its ground. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but if Bitcoin struggles, there's a 99% chance that your altcoin struggles. If Bitcoin does well, there's a good chance your altcoin's doing well, but based off Bitcoin dominance, man, Bitcoin has been taking market share from all of the altcoins. And how can you prove that? I'll show you. Hey, what's going on? Hey, Carol, welcome in. Boy, sis, mom, what's going on? Sid Nasty Kid knows, man, yeah. All right, let me show you guys what I mean. So Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance, man, this is kind of crazy to me. On the daily, going on an absolute ripper, has been on an absolute ripper since the 25th of March. It seems like every single day. This last month, Bitcoin dominance has not given away a sign, and I don't want to call it the last hope because it's not. I will become a Bitcoin super cycle crazy person if we crack this 786. Why? Because that would invalidate my idea here. That would invalidate my idea. Now, my idea still stands. I still think the altcoin season's right around the corner and that 786 is going to hold, and we're going to get a bounce from somewhere in this golden pocket area here. But we have this inverted cup and handle. The inverted cup and handle looks so juicy on this chart. So juicy on this chart. Inverted cup and handle, baby. This thing looks to break to the downside with this giant gap in the VRVP. But look at this. You have this measured move from the swing high to the low here. That bear flag or inverted cup and handle, however you choose to see it, can break down here to about 30%. That would spark alt season like you've never seen before. And how did it start last time? Let's clear out all this. You broke the high, right? You broke the prior high, from back in 2019, about a year ago, a year before this happened, and you went on Bitcoin. Nobody expected this. Nobody expected alt season. And I can tell you right now, nobody's expecting it right now. And I think it's right on the horizon. I really do. How do I take that fib from the swing high to the swing low? You're looking to come into this region right here and reject. This is the likely area where the next lower high is likely to come in if we are bearish on Bitcoin dominance. This has nothing to do with price. This has everything to do with the percentage of money in the total crypto market cap that is in Bitcoin, which is why over the past few weeks you can see your altcoins struggling. Bitcoin took in this past 2 month time frame, about, let's see here, it took about 7% from the market. From all your altcoins, Bitcoin's up on average about 7% more than your average altcoin. And that's saying something, as it's the biggest asset in the game over the past 3 months here or so, 112 days. That has been crazy. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is the 9th weekly green candle for Bitcoin dominance. We need to see this roll over, and we need to see it roll over fast. I'm speculating on a candle like this to touch that 786 up here at about 66.2. We crack through that and we close the weekly candle. The weekly candle closes on Sunday night. That could pose some major issues for the altcoins, right? And arguably, all I want to say, look, and you're cooked on the weekly stochastics, right? Every time you get up here, you get a little bit of at least consolidate. I think this is likely to roll. You're pinned on the weekly. You don't often see that, right? We need the bears to step in here if we want altcoin season to start igniting. What is likely going to be the ignition for altcoin season? That's federal interest rates coming down, or rate cuts, or at least a more dovish Fed. And we'll hear that next week. This is going to be the biggest day next week. And if you're in the markets, I don't care if you're in the crypto markets, I don't care if you're in the stock markets, Wednesday is your day next week. You could look at all this stuff on, whatever. Wednesday is the big of all things that are happening next week, right? You got, PMI, trade deficit, this could impact the tariffs a little bit. I think there's going to be a lot of sitting on everybody's hands, waiting on the sidelines while we wait for the most expensive voice in the world, Fed Chair Jerome Powell, to come out and massively influence or impact the market. And it sucks that we're in an economy that relies on federal interest rate cuts, but we are. And so we're going to take advantage of that while we have it. And in my opinion, eventually the Fed's not going to be around anymore. But if this man comes out and Donald Trump wants him to cut rates, if he cuts rates, that's going to shock the world. Right now, they're giving like a 0% chance of a rate cut. It was like 7% the last I saw. But with those numbers, I bet it's changed. I'll bet it's changed. Nope. Yeah. Remember the other day we looked at this? We just looked at this yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. and it was giving it like a 93% chance. Not yesterday, the day before, a 93% chance. Now we're getting of no change. Now we're at 99%, likely sparking. Yeah, see that peak in the graph here and that dump right here on the basis point cuts. Or I don't know if you guys can see that. Let's see if we can scroll down. This peak right here, that led from today's data. If the jobs are coming in, Jerome Powell has no reason to cut rates. That's his backing. Now you do have that 1%, that 1 in a million time that it can happen. Or 1 in 100, right? 1 in 100 times that it could happen. It has happened before. Remember last year when Japan did it, their stock market rallied 20% in a single day. Wow. You know, if we got something like that, that'd be crazy. Not betting the house on it. Do not think that will happen. I expect no change. What are we going to be looking for, though? We expect no change. We're likely going to get no change based on Polymarket. And I don't think there's going to be a change. But this is what I'm going to be listening to. That 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Fed Chair Jerome Powell press conference, baby. As the reporters are talking to him, as everybody starts asking Jerome Powell questions, we're going to be listening to the tune of how he speaks to determine whether there's going to be more or less rate cuts coming later in the year. The markets are very forward-looking. Crypto, you know, traditional markets, the bond market, treasuries, everything are very forward-looking. Buy the rumors, sell the news. And the rumors, right, the rumors are in that press conference. So it's very, very, very important to listen up if you are in any asset in any market on Wednesday to what Fed Chair Jerome Powell says at that press conference. And I know a lot of people don't like listening to Jerome Powell. Listen, and it could be boring. He has a very monotone voice. That man is the most expensive voice in the world, in my opinion, you know, right besides Donald Trump. When he talks, not just the United States, but the world listens. Very, very, very important next week. And I'll be keeping you guys up to date on that. All right, diving on into the chat. Hey, thank you everybody for being here. Michaela B, what's going on? Carol, boys, could you please, or Mom, what's up, Mom? You know, it's so weird not seeing your name, Mom, on there. What's up, Mom? All right, Carol wants to talk about Zebek. Zebek, I did do a little bit of token diving on Zebek over here on CoinMarketCap, ranked 321. And, you know, this reminds me of some of the stuff that Sin Nasty Kid brings up, man. Look, you're looking at something that is relatively high risk right now. Why? And look, there's nothing wrong with it being high risk. Why do I say it's a high risk? This market cap, 109 million, right? There's a reason I say on, you know, I stay within the top 100. Because they're a lot more stable. You can see the percents around here, you know, in the past day, and they're a lot more volatile than, say, you find something in the 100 to 200 range. So that's, for Zebek, I really do like the project. I think it pairs really, really well with XRP, XLM, that kind of narrative. It has a community behind it. However, you have to acknowledge that you're sitting at a $113 million market cap. That is a very small market cap for crypto. With that being said, you have the supply being sold out into the public via supply, you know, supply releases. They have a, let me see here. Where was it? Token unlocks? Yeah, so they have had the supply being released out to the public, and this has been holding price. That is good. That means it's absorbing that selling pressure, right, from the seed rounds, the contributors, the rewards, and this has a really, really cool staking program. For those of you guys who watch me, you know on Solana, I like to swap through Jupiter. Why? Because it qualifies me for the airdrop at the end. And the Jupiter that I have that I stake, I'm able to vote in the active staking rewards. The exact same copy-paste, you know, rewards program is here for Zebek. It's on a DAO, so that allows you to have a voice, have a vote, right? When you stake in this network and you get rewarded, half of the supply that comes out in the token unlocks goes back to the community and rewards. So if you're aiming to be a long-term holder of this and you're not staking, in my opinion, you're doing yourself a disservice, because that Zebek token, right, you're only going to have more of that token at the end of the year or the end of the next 2 years, or however long you're planning on holding this asset until you think it is going to take off. Now, let's dive on into the chart real quick, Mom. Let's dive into the chart real quick. I'll dive into Zebek network. It is not on a lot of different exchanges right here, and that is good and bad. Here's why. Good, because in the event that Zebek does get listed on Coinbase, on Kraken, right? So you're already on OKX and Polynex and Crypto.com. That's really, really good. In the event that you get listed on Binance, on, you know, any of these big decentralized exchanges, you know, that exchange has to buy a metric butt ton of it in order to serve its customers. And you can see that whenever you're going back on any kind of initial token offering or listing, whether it's on futures or spot, if this gets listed, you could see a pump like you've never seen before on any asset. And I'm talking 100, 200% pumps that have happened in the past for coins that got listed on Binance or Coinbase or any of those, you know, big decentralized exchanges. So, or in the case of Coinbase, centralized, but any of the big decentralized exchanges, especially those offering leverage, Zebek would respond likely very, very positively based off of the current market cap right now. So let's dive on into the charts. I loved what I was seeing here for Zebek in the charts. A smaller market cap, right? So not something that I'd be really willing to bet the farm on, but a little nibble here. To me, you're not at bad prices. So what would I be looking for? Let me rephrase this. A little nibble here would not be a bad idea, in my opinion, given a certain scenario. So as a leverage trade, I see this has gone up. This has gone up immaculately this month, right? If you look at the monthly, right, or you can look at the 2 weeks month. Yeah, monthly, this is nothing but green. Weekly, nothing but green. From the low, you are up 77%. That looks really good, but this has been a pretty sustained rally so far. Let's look at it on the daily, Mom. So this is been a pretty sustained rally. What I love is being above that daily 200 SMA. Zebek, one of the only altcoins that I'm seeing besides Sui that is sitting above its daily 200 SMA. There's a couple that come to mind. Sui, XRP, Zebek right now just brought to our attention. And, you know, sitting above this red line, that 200 SMA, to me is signaling strength. The last time you got above that, you got a massive pump to the upside to hit this current resistance wall where you're currently sitting. Now, this area has served as resistance for you on the Zebek token since all the way back here in June of 2024. You can see you hit it once, twice, three times, 4 times. The 5th time you got above it and flipped that into support, lost it, and it became resistance again. This is a key support resistance flip area, and you're running into it like a truck. You even ran into it just 4 days ago and then got rejected on a nasty red candle to the downside of about 21%. Woo, got a little bit of a dry uvula in there. All right, so here's what I'm looking at for Zebek. In order for me to take a position, specifically a leverage position, which I can't, right? Because the exchanges that I use don't offer this token. But in the event that I were to get in the spot, where would I like to get in? I'd like to get in right here. But I would wait for a certain scenario, and here's why. Until this is proven otherwise, you've hit it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, you know, 5th time, this is the 6th time. Is the 7th time going to be the time you get over the resistance? Maybe. But I would wait for either A, some kind of consolidation, some kind of flag to form out here on the daily as the 21 catches up in the price action, or more likely what I see happening for Zebek is a breakthrough, right? A breakthrough here for Zebek. Once you break through, the odds, the likelihood of you coming back and retesting this support resistance flip are phenomenally high. I'd give it a 95 to 97% chance that you get a test of this level. If it breaks and it runs, it's going to run without me. However, if we do get that retest and we can confirm that this previous resistance was support, right? Resistance. If this area gets back into support, you could flip this support resistance zone, and this would be the area that I'd be looking to take a long, baby, underneath this. You know, I'd put it underneath this big red candle right here. And you could look at a long scenario, right, on that retrace, and you can keep it pretty tight here, depending on the VRVP. Where's the VRVP? Oh, it's not even updated for this, right? So we'd have to look at it on a different chart. But that's what I'm looking at for Zebek right here. I think this is a key area that you're running into like a freight train, and you could tweak this depending on where you like. I like getting the most touches, and that's sitting right on where you are right now. I would wait for either a breakout and a retest, or a breakout and a retest and look for continuation to the upside, or based off of this structure that we're having right here, let's remove all this. I could also see this scenario playing out very, very likely, right? So what's going to tell us what's likely to happen? Time's gonna tell us. Notice how I'm not looking at taking a position right now. I want to see how price. If I chase this, right, and I emptied my entire altcoin bag into Zebek right now, I'd be doing everybody a disservice, right? You could likely get caught in a red candle. A singular red candle just happened 2 days ago on a 25% down draw to the down. I don't want to lose 25% of my investment in a single day, and that's likely right now. Where does that change, from likely to not likely on that support resistance flip? So given that opportunity, that's where I would be looking at getting in Zebek. If Zebek does not get over this zone, right? If Zebek does not go over this zone, you're like, boys, crypto, man, I love this project. I think this thing is going to be really, really hot. You did, you did make a higher high with this wick. So where's your first macro higher low likely to come in? If you watch me on this channel, you know it's likely to come in this zone right here, the area that we're looking at for Bitcoin dominance on the bearish side. This would be the bullish side, 618786 retrace. In the event that you could come down here, this would be a juicy area to take a long, speculating on further continuation to the upside. On a macro market structure shift, which you did right here, lower high, lower low, lower high, you got your first higher high, and that first higher low is likely to come in down here at that 618786 golden pocket Fibonacci retracement. So that's what I'm looking at for Zebek. Thank you, Mom, for dropping on in the chat. I still do have a little bit more deep diving to do for you. I know you asked me to look at the tokenomics and everything. I'm going to dive on into the white paper. I know they have the scheduled releases and everything. They have a relatively small market cap, but with that being said, if you want to find, Mom, if you want to find a 100x, a 1000x, this is where you need to be looking. If you're looking in the top 100 for a 1000x or a 100x, you're likely not going to find it. I actually could almost promise you won't find it in the top 100. Why? Because the market caps are too big, right? Even the market cap of like Sui, that's my number one altcoin holding right now. It's not going to 100x. There's no way. That would be a 1 trillion. Okay, I don't want to say no way because that's not something I should say in crypto, right? As we've seen the odds be defied before. However, that would put Sui at a $1 trillion market cap, half the size of Bitcoin. Unlikely. Very unlikely. I do not see that happening. Could it happen? Sure. Unlikely, right? And anything in the top, anything in the top 100, very unlikely to 100x. Unless you get down that sub 80. Now, what would it take for this one, the 100x? It'd take you to get, if you entered now and you got up to the market cap of Sui, right, at number 11, that would be a 100x on Zebek Network. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that's what would need to happen, right, in order for you to 100x your money. And Sui's currently sitting at that current market cap of about $10 billion. That's where you would need to get to market cap-wise. So is that in the cards? Yes. Is it likely? I'd have to dive a little bit more into the white paper, and to catch these things really, really early is difficult, but that's where greater risk leads to greater rewards, right? There are people that got into, Bitcoin back at, a couple bucks, 10 cents a Bitcoin. And, there are people that, will get online and show you coins. And is this the winner? It could be. I like that there's a limited supply. I like there's a max supply. And I like how most of it's already given out. And we're absorbing selling pressure here. And you got a clear release schedule all the way up till 2026. Looks very interesting. Looks very interesting, Mom. Thank you for putting Zebek Network on our radar. I got that written down here. I'm going to do a little bit more of a deep dive in for you. Thank you. MH, Ondo, absolutely. Ondo, yeah, Ondo, we took a little peek at Ondo. I appreciate you, MH. Yeah, Ondo, I think looks hot. I think that this thing could be the next real runner, and it could take some time. And it's been kind of frustrating seeing this trade pretty much sideways for the past 3 days. Look, these are 4-hour candles. We've been in this range forever, and we haven't been able to get above it. My stop on the trade is below the 4-hour 200 SMA. So if this cracks, we get a 4-hour closure, I'll be out. But I'm above the high volume node right here. If you zoom on out, there's a couple high volume nodes that are sticking out to me, right, that are down here at about, let's get the whole picture in here. Yeah, so the high volume node sitting down here at about 84, 83, and that's below the 4-hour 200 SMA. So I want to keep my stop below the 4-hour 200 SMA. It's just my preference. So What I am seeing here for Ondo is a likely downward sloping channel. You're pushing on the 4 hour. I'm telling you guys, on the weekend here, to me, this was a broken pattern. You wick back up inside, got that bounce off the support line, and now you're still playing with this inverse shoulder, head and shoulder retest with the high volume nodes sitting underneath you to support you at about 88 cents, which is where you got this wick up from 88 cents to 92 cents. That was a substantial wick right there. I think this thing could do some massive damage over the course of the bull run, and these may be some of the best prices to accumulate Ondo, in my opinion. Again, not financial advice, just for entertainment, everybody. That's where I have my money. That's where I have my money right now. Ondo, Sui, Virtuals, Render. I think all those are really, really hot right now. And we'll do some major damage over the course of the bull run. Yeah, even the course of the last 4 hours, we've seen a little bit of a pullback. And, as you can see, with the biggest pumps come the biggest dumps. Virtuals down 4.5%, the hottest performer of the day. Even on the hour, still struggling. 15 minutes, still struggling. You see this on Bubbles. I love Bubbles, man. CryptoBubbles.net. Super easy to see a broad picture of the entire market. All right, let's dive on in. If Bitcoin dominance would come down to the 40% area, that would mean a crazy gain for alts. Christoph, I couldn't agree with you. Reviews, what's going on, man? I see your emoji. I appreciate you, brother. What's going on? Yeah, I could see that. I totally agree with you. That would be an alt season like you'd never expect. Why? Because everybody's so scared of alts right now. If this does end up reversing, right, out of this golden pocket, which we've been in since mid-February, and this takes time. This is the weekly chart. This is the area where it's likely to turn around. If it doesn't get stopped here at the 786, I think Bitcoin may just steal the show. I really do. And I'll have to change my overall thesis, because we break that 786, we're likely to come and test the highs. Then you got a nice looking W, and that could crack to the high. So that could definitely happen. But I see this giant gap in the VRVP beneath, these giant gaps that could lead into massive breakdowns. That's how this ended up happening. You had these giant gaps in the VRVP, and you started ripping through it. Why? Because the liquidity was so low in those zones, and stops got triggered in reference to the Bitcoin dominance, and people could trade Bitcoin dominance on some exchanges. Very, very interesting. So yeah, Bitcoin dominance on a nonstop tear, 2 years to the upside. Eventually, I see this thing rolling over, and if it's going to roll over, it's going to roll over now. I will let you guys know if I change my thesis. I'll be like, I'm Boys Crypto, and I was wrong. Alt season is not happening. I do not think alt season's happening. I will tell you guys. But until, I will be completely clear on this. Until we close a weekly candle, that is on Sunday night, right? Not this Sunday, and it could be this Sunday. Who knows? Until we get a weekly candle body close, I don't care if we come up here on a single day. I don't care. A candle body closure above 66.19, that is just a single 1.2% above where we sit right now for Bitcoin dominance. If we get a single weekly candle body closure above that level, you guys know you guys know me. That'll be me changing my mind. That'll be it. That'll change my entire thesis out of this inverted cup and handle that nobody else is showing here on YouTube that I've seen. If you guys are seeing it, if you guys are seeing other people shout this out, let me know who's saying it. But nobody else is pointing out this inverted cup and handle, and I think this thing could do some massive damage to the downside. Crypto likes to do what people least expect, and what people would least expect right now is Bitcoin dominance to start giving in this zone and come down to the downside, filling that gap in the VRVP after a 2-year monstrous rip to the upside. You see a lot of altcoins sitting at their bear market lows despite Bitcoin being at a $100,000. That is absolute insanity and carnage in the markets. I think things can reverse. Now, with that being said, I have to keep this on your radar. Carol, it's listed on Uphold. I appreciate you dropping that on my radar. So on TradingView here, right? I don't think we get up. Do we get? Let's see here. So, yeah, so these are exchanges, right? Yeah. Oh, you got KuCoin. Oh, okay, I didn't see all these down here. Let's see, on crypto. Yeah, over Ludacrush. I didn't see all these down here. That's my fault. That's my fault, Mom. That's my fault. Yeah, so you got MexCrypto.com, Gate.io, CoinX, Bitmart, Blowfin, right? So I can take out, this is where I trade, right? On Blowfin right now and on Weeks. So Zebek, I could take leverage positions out on that. That's very interesting. Makes it more appealing to me as a trader. Thank you, Carol, or thank you, Mom, for putting that on my radar. I was originally not going to say my family members' names. I was just going to call them by their normal names. Like April's April's my lady, right? April's my lady, my love. And then Carol is my mother. So I was just calling people by their first names. But I'll let you guys know. In on that secret, baby. In on that secret. Right? I was keeping it a secret, but now it's not a secret anymore. It is what it is. All right, so here we go. All right, diving on into the chat. I appreciate you guys dropping your thoughts. Yeah, Christoph, I agree with you, man. If Bitcoin dominance does roll over here, it's going to catch everybody with their pants down, and we'll have called it here on the Boys Crypto channel. I hear everyone saying Bitcoin dominance going to an all-time, not an all-time high, but breaking these highs. And could it happen? Absolutely. But to say that and us coming up to a key zone where it is proven that price likes to reverse in this box right here, very likely at the 786, I'm not buying it. I will not bite at that FUD that everybody is shoving into the public. It drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. I think this thing can roll over, and I think it can roll over at any time when people least expect. I think a rate cut or a dovish Fed would get this thing to reverse to the downside very, very hard. Why? Because risk on would be back, baby. Risk on would be back. I appreciate you, Michaela B. You're an absolute legend. MH wants to look at VRA, and then Sonic for review, or VRA. Yeah, hey. Sin Nasty Kid is a great, yeah, hey, I appreciate you dropping that on my radar, man. Yeah, Housecoin is a great example. Housecoin is a great example, right? Here we go for Housecoin. So Sin Nasty, for those of you who don't know what Housecoin is, Housecoin was brought up by Sin Nasty Kid way down here when we had it in this flag, trading at less than, or about a half of a penny, getting up to about a penny. He put this on our radar on the daily time frame. Look at this thing absolutely ripping one of the hottest players in the game out of the breakout of this flag. You 20x'd your money in about a week, about 10 days. That is immaculate. If you got out of the top. Again, I don't hold this coin. I was doing some research into this coin for Sin Nasty Kid, and man, he was right. He hit the nail on the head, and this thing got an immaculate move to the upside. You can see how these flags work, right? You break out, and this is what I was talking about, Mom. When you get a breakout, right, of this zone, resistance, you come up, you get that breakout, that retest. Yes, Sin Nasty Kid, you are exactly right, brother. This retest right here is the perfect entry zone. That's the opportunity that I'm going to be looking for on Zebek, Mom. That's the exact opportunity that I'm going to be looking for on Zebek to ride that to the upside, right? And I'll be taking profits along the way. If I do open up a trade on Zebek, you guys will see it first on X at Boys Crypto 102. Follow me for all my setups, baby, and all the charts I think that are looking the juiciest in the game. All right. Here we go. VRA for MH. Let's close out some of that. I don't want to get, good night. I don't know if Comcast could hold up, man. It seems like the rain's clearing up, but I still hear some thunder in the distance. All right, so here we go. VRA. Let's look at it on MEXC on the perpetual futures. And man, look at that high and tight flag that's forming. I like this. Let's look at this on the 1 hour. This looks beautiful, brother. Look at that giant gap in the VRVP that you gap through. Let's zoom on out. So this was one of the coins, right? And we talk about this. It's very important. Oh. Where's my energy gum at? Oh my goodness, can't find it. All right. So VRA, let's zoom on in here and see what we got. All right, so VRA. Haven't looked at this coin. If I have, I had a little, short-term memory loss. I don't remember looking at this. But here we are for VR. I don't have any lines on the chart anyway to support that I've looked at it before. Right? Okay, cool. Here, zooming on in. So what a beautiful shoulder, head, right shoulder that you had. Shoulder, head, shoulder, breakout to the upside. And now on the smaller time frames, you are flagging out beautifully. You couldn't ask for a more beautiful flag. I even like that there was a stop hunt. That looks good. All right. So you have a nice high and tight bull flag. And, I don't know anything about this project, but I can tell you this. Any asset that has a massive pump, you see the RSI reset the fair value and stochastics come down to the lower band while you're maintaining price action up in these higher levels. Looks very, very good for continuation to the upside. And why do I say that you're likely going to get a continuation to the downside? Look at this sell-off. Look at this thing. Even on the daily, since back here in December, you were trading up here at about almost a penny, and now you're trading at 80% of, or 20% of a penny. And there's going to be some big gaps in the VRVP. Look at this gap as you gap up through the VRVP, your next likely stop zone to be about a quarter of a penny up here at that VRVP high volume node, and the previous support resistance flip here. Support. All right. Whoop. Support, and then you flipped under. You almost flipped that into resistance, but I think there's still more room to go here. I think this flag is likely to pump to the upside here and at least get to the target of, at least get up here to about 1/4 of a penny. That flag looks high. It looks tight, and it looks ready to rip off of reset stochastics. Let's see where the 4 hours looking. 4 hours still coming down, so even if the 4 hour flag, right, and the 4 hour flag and the 1 hour flag, the exact same thing, right? So I would look at the 4 hour, and I would wait for this to consolidate a little more and get a little bit of that lifer vision, baby, as the 21 comes up into the price action, and then you can get that curvature. Price will likely bounce off the 21 and move further to the upside out of this bull flag. I think that's a little more likely, as stochastics for the stochastics here are still downward trending. You're not getting any bearish divergence. It looks really good for a move to the upside out of VRAMH. Thank you for putting this on our level. This may be a hot runner as we go on into the weekend. I like it. I like what I'm seeing. This thing looks really hot and ready to run. You're starting to form a high volume node here, especially when you're looking at this range, right? The high volume node sticking out. You want to stay above the high volume node in the range as much as possible, and you can get that by just zooming in on this range right here. So you'll get that high volume node that's sitting at about just right above you, man. Just right above you. This candle has just been wicking around on this 5-minute time frame. Man, look at this. This looks really, really good. The 5-minute and the 1 minute getting really, really tight. Is when you see moving averages get tight. Look at this. Moving averages get tight, you're in for a move. Likely, when moving averages get tight, you're in for a move, whether that be to the upside or the downside. And I'm not ignoring this giant gap in the VRVP, and you could get something like this. You could get Bitcoin struggles this weekend. You could get that Bart Simpson pattern back from whence you came. That's not what we want to see, but just something we want to keep on our radar. Right now, the way I'm looking at this is a high and tight bull flag on the 1 hour, looking like one of the hottest setups in the game for continuation to the upside. Thank you for keeping that on our radar. MH, you're an absolute legend, man. Thanks for joining us on in the chat like you do every single night, and I appreciate you being here, man. I appreciate you being here and being in this community. All right. Here we go, diving on in. Yeah, Sin Nasty Kid, thanks for keeping that on our radar. Yeah, Housecoin, what an immaculate example, for sure. Yeah, the Uphold has a listing. So the Uphold, I don't believe supports futures, right? It doesn't support futures, so you're not gonna get the chart here on trading. I don't know if you do get the chart on, can get the chart on TradingView for Uphold. Does Uphold have charts? I don't know if it does. On TradingView, at least. I don't know. Of course, on Uphold, they're going to have the chart, right? But I don't know if Uphold does have... Let's see here. Look at Apple. Yeah, I don't think Uphold has charts here on TradingView. I could be completely wrong on that. I could be completely wrong. But on futures anyway, the reason I like to look at futures charts, right? So let's see here on, let's see, let's look at the all-time high index, right? So all-time history index. This chart trades, right? You only get, boop, boop, boop. Where are the charts that trade? Kraken, CryptoCap, markets.com. Oh, this will do it, right? So here we go. Here's an example, right? Here we go. Futures chart don't have these gaps, right? I hate these gaps. Why do I not like the gaps? Well, I do like the gaps, but I like looking at the futures chart because it does not include Saturday and Sunday price action that happened in here. This right here, for those of you who have never seen a CME gap before, this is what it looks like. A close on Friday, right? Let's look at it right here. This is Bitcoin, on the daily. This is a past example. Just real quick. A close on Friday, right? You are likely in the next week, right, to come up and test. And it didn't even happen. It's crazy that it didn't happen in this week. But you're likely to get a close of this gap. Or it did, yeah. You're likely to get a close of this gap. You got it with the wicks. And then the next week, you got it with the candles. So this is a CME gap right here. Closed, right? Look how perfectly that closes. You had a little gap right here, right, from Friday to Monday, and that closed on that wick right there. So that's what a CME gap looks like. And, here for BTC, let's see. You do have Saturday and Sunday on here. I'll have to pull up a CME chart. But these gaps, yeah, why does it show Friday to Monday right here? So it shows me Friday to Monday, and then over here it'll show me, didn't it just show me a Saturday? I swear it showed me a Saturday right here. Or maybe this will be a gap starting the next week. I was so confused when I saw that. Yeah, so this is a CME gap, and they get filled 99.999% of the time. Look at this one back here. This is what everybody was concerned about on that massive pump, right? That massive pump that we had back here in November. Everybody was concerned that we had to fill the CME gap. Let's clear this up here a little bit so it's a little easier to see. That CME gap formed, look at that beautiful gap here that formed on the daily time frame. And you had this gap from the Friday's close to the Monday's open. You come down, and this was on that CME gap fill to the dollar, you got the reversal to the upside for Bitcoin. And yeah, you did have lower price action, but that's the example of how the CME gaps work. Very few have not been filled in Bitcoin's history. How many gaps do you see as we go back in time here? That's absolutely crazy. So yeah, just something you want to keep on your radar, guys. Something you want to keep on your radar. All right, diving on in. Let's look at Sonic. Sonic on the radar. Let's dive on in. Sonic, baby. Yeah, MH, absolutely, man. I appreciate you being here. Sonic, for reviews. Let's dive on in. Reviews, what's going on? Shout out to you, man. Coming all the way from Indonesia. Reviews, man. Reviews. Shout out to you. Shout out to you. Making a difference for himself and for his family through crypto. You're an absolute legend, man. I love talking to you the other day on X, man. I appreciate you. Any of you guys that have anything, anything that you got... Any of you guys have any direct questions or anything, feel free to direct message me on X or in my email. You guys have it, right? Use that to my advantage. I'm here for you guys. And as I'm looking at, I do this all day, right? I'm in the charts all day. I'm at the grocery store and my lady's, asking me to push the buggy around. I'm pushing the buggy around. I say, hey babe, I have to go to the bathroom. And what I'm doing is I go in there as I'm peeing in the urinal, I'm checking the charts. You know what I mean? And you may stand there for 2 minutes, real awkward when there's only one urinal and someone's standing behind you. And, you got your penis out and you're just holding your phone. But, it happens. It happens. Sometimes I'm messaging one of you guys. So, hey, shout out to you guys. You guys have that. You guys have that for your disposal. Feel free to message me during the day, man. Feel free to message me during the day anytime. I'm here for you guys. All right, here we go. Woo! Here we go. Diving on in. What's going on, my lady? What's going on? Oh, she heard that. You guys hear that? Oh, she just opened up the door and she gave me this stank eye. I didn't even know she was home. Woo, woo, woo! I'm gonna get in trouble after that. She's got this spanking stick. It's like a fly swatter that sometimes she'll hit me with if I don't. If I say things like that. So if you guys see some, I'm not going to show you guys those welts on camera. They're in spots I can't show on YouTube. All right, here we go. Diving on in. All right, we're looking at Sonic. We're looking at Sonic for reviews. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. All right, here we go. Let's look at it on the daily first. I like looking at it on the daily. So Sonic, what is Sonic? Sonic is Phantom rebranded. And, the rebranding of Phantom was a very interesting business decision, and I think that could do immaculate for cryptos. XRP did the same thing. XRP had a complete rebranding after it struggled, in its business endeavors early on in its life back in 2017. They had to completely rebrand their business, and now, they're focused on, cross-border. They've always been focused on cross-border payments, right? But now they're focused on more banks, institutional adoption, Vice, individual people and whatnot. That business model has changed throughout the course of time, especially with the SEC lawsuit and everything. They definitely had to solidify what they were actually doing as a project in order to move forward with that lawsuit, and they did. And now that they have a fine-tuned exact way that the public views them and the public understands what they're doing, they have received a massive rally and reward from that. So the Sonic rebranding could be something very, very similar, as Phantom has been absolutely destroyed. Look at this on the weekly. Let's see this. Sonic, baby. Sonic. That's on futures. Let's look at it on Bybit Spot. That's crazy. So, wow, I didn't know this. Hold on. Let me think. Is there a way to get the Phantom chart and the Sonic? Because when you rebrand and you're Sonic now. You're Sonic now. Okay, here we go. Interesting. Okay, so was this I don't think this was the same thing. I'll do a little bit of dive into that because right now, look, if I'm looking at Sonic, I don't get the price action of when this thing was Phantom. Maybe on Bitfinex? I don't. I only have it since when it was Sonic, when it was rebranded just not even a couple months ago. That's interesting. If any of you guys know how to look at that, let me know. That's very interesting. I didn't know that. Okay, so what I'm seeing here, you were ranging back here for Sonic. Back here on the 3rd of February, that massive capitulation event never recovered from Sonic. Very interesting. Much like a lot of the other altcoins have not recovered from that mass capitulation event. So the strongest of the strong have, but man, after that, the altcoin sector got absolutely rocked. You had some trading back and forth here in this range for almost an entire month. That was painful. In a 3 to 4 cent range, you traded for a month. That's trader hell, everybody. That's what that is. Sideways consolidation, sideways price action. You know what that means? No money. You can make money whether you're going up. You can make money whether you're going down. But it is near impossible to make money while the price trends sideways. There's no money, even in leverage, unless you're on some ridiculously high leverage 100x, which I never recommend. You know, except for scalping, you know what you're doing on the 1 minute. But yeah, that's painful. That's painful. All right. Here we go. So Sonic, you fell beneath that support zone. Support, fell underneath. Resistance. You could not get back above, and to the depths you went. And up here, you could even say you tested the resistance again. You got above support with that wick confirming that, and now you're back in the range. I would consider this range as if you never left it. You are still in this range. Reviews, you're still in this range, man. Gapping up through the VRVP very, very nicely. Is sitting beneath that local point of control, but above the macro point of control down here at about 24 cents. You know, with this business rebranding and altcoins potentially on the reversal rally, I think this is very, very likely to move higher for Sonic. Look at this. You're making, you made a lower low, lower high, lower low. This would be your first higher high. And, you may get a little bit of a flag before you, going for continuation up to this next high volume node, sitting at where? Probably at about 46 to 50 cents here. Let's get it on the, about here at about 46 cents. And again, I can't say this is entirely accurate. Why? Because we do not have an updated price chart where, you've had the price history of Sonic or Phantom when Phantom was the actual project. That's very, very interesting. So getting above this high volume node, getting out of this range is crucial. You get above this range, and I would say with 97% chance probability, this wick right here, this was all short orders. This was not people selling. This was not people selling Sonic. This was not people selling Phantom. And how can I prove that to you? Zoom on out. Look at the VRVP. Look at how many actually changed hands via buying and selling. Next to zero. Next to zero. Look at these nodes comparatively to right here. You had nothing. So this was all liquidations to the downside whenever you take a long position on futures, if it gets stopped out or if it gets liquidated, it executes a sell. And that mass liquidation event, that the biggest in crypto history, that happened on February 3rd of 2025, the biggest in crypto history, boom, to the downside, baby. Or was it the 3rd or the 2nd? It was the 2nd, wasn't it? It was a Sunday. And that's exactly what I mean. If you get enough selling pressure or buying pressure, you could get these cascades to the downside unlike any other. That was a Sunday, was it not? Yeah, look at this. This was a Saturday and Sunday. Price fell through this node and you went to the downside massively. A massive long squeeze to the downside, causing price to capitulate, and Sonic has never recovered, looking like it wants to rebound and take some of those gains back. I am seeing, and I'm calling it here on the channel, for price to revisit up here at about 42 cents. Why? Well, look at this. Is this not what we talked about earlier? Look at this. Even up to here, you could argue, hey, boys crypto, you just talked about a CME gap. Look at this CME gap that is still here. This is let's clear this up. This right here is that CME gap. This is that gap that is likely to be filled, that gets filled all the time in assets, whether it's going to wick around there or just shoot up and, you can take a market order, take profit. That's what I would do, right? Because these were all short orders. in the event, since these were all long liquidations, you never had anybody actually selling here. So there's no proof that anybody wants to sell their phantom in here. Either they got stopped out of their long position. I don't see anybody accumulating phantom down here that's wanting to sell in a CME gap. That just doesn't make sense from a trader's perspective. So I see more upside for Sonic here. For Sonic. I may have misspoke there. I said phantom, but for Sonic. That looks good. That looks good. Sean Davis, show us the money, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate you diving on in today. All right, diving on in the chat. Reviews, we looked at Sonic. Mom, what's up? Hey, listed on Uphold. Yeah, yep. Ondo, I'm in $100 at 7X at 906 with a stop loss at 79. No take profit set. Hey, and that's okay, Nasty Kid. Hey, you know, I really think Ondo, is it going to retrace to 79? If it does, that's going to be a wash on my trade, man. I'll tell you that. It's going to be a wash on my trade. Why? Well, you know, looking at it here on the daily, if you come down here to 79 cents, you lose that point. Let's clear this up, man. That looks disgusting. All right. So here at 79 cents, your stop loss is in. You're in from about 90. So Nasty Kid's trade looks like this. In from 90. 90.06, give or take. You got to stop at 79. 79 something. 79 flat. We'll put it right there. And Nasty Kid does not have a take profit, so he's looking for a big swing trade to the upside. This is the idea that I'm looking after as well, man. My stop is below that 4-hour 200 SMA, so it's a little tighter than yours, right? But I am still on 7X. I think I am on 4X. I am on 4X. 7X, you know, you can modify the leverage if you want to. And, you know, that trade's something I'm building for a bigger long-term swing position. You know, actually, it's 7X. I do have it on 7X, and I've been scaling in from down at about $1. I got in at 99, and I added at 88, and that's what I'm looking at. I'm going to scale on the way down, and I'm going to get out beneath that 4-hour 200 SMA, which has not been cracked. It was looking good here. Out of that flag, you know, the flag to the upside, we got that breakdown, and that was a struggle. That definitely was a struggle, but I'm seeing a reversal here out of that inverted shoulder head. That's your stop. You got that shoulder head, right shoulder retest here. Inverted shoulder head, right shoulder. That could definitely be the bottom of the, you know, of the pullback. And I think that's very, very likely for a hot asset like Ondo, you know, working with the SEC, making deals with the government. Larry Fink loves it. It's in the World Liberty Financial wallet. Donald Trump holds it. I don't see this thing going to nothing if Donald Trump, World Liberty Financial, holds it, and Larry Fink is pushing for tokenized assets on the U.S. stock exchange. I think that's very, very likely to come here in the future, and I see this asset monumentally tearing as real-world assets take off, as this asset takes the market share from the Mantra DAO rug pull. I think that's very, very likely. Ondo, the leading real-world asset aggregator in the space. I think this giant, look at this gap. Look at this giant gap in the VRVP, everybody. This is insane. These moves, no Ondo traded hands here, essentially at about $1.02 to about $1.20. Zero comparatively to where we are right now. Look at the support you have beneath you. Nasty Kid, I like where you're at, man. I think that's okay. Where you're sitting is fine. You know, I would just let the trade ride if I were you. Again, not financial advice, but I'm in it with you, brother. I think this thing's a hot setup, and we're going to get this juicy run to the upside. I think $1.40 is coming. Very, very likely the first stop I see is that daily 200 SMA at $1.11. I don't think that's going to be a problem for Ondo to crack through. Look at the last time you cracked through that daily 200 SMA, and Ondo has the potential to be an absolute ripper to the upside. Another small market cap coin sitting at about $3 billion here on Coin Market Cap. Coming down here, it's at about number 33, if I'm right. I know Ondo like the back of my hand, baby. Ondo 33, 34, baby. 34 looks good to me. You can always get the updated news and stuff over here on the sidelines and people's different trade ideas. You can hit latest and everything. So, you know, I think this thing could do some massive damage. The problem that I see with it, right? There's still like a lot that has not been released. So Ondo does have tokens that do need to come out into the market. So does Sui. So do a lot of the other chains. But you know what? There's a total supply. There's a capped out supply as of right now. This max supply changes. I'll be out of Ondo the second. Oh, immediately, man. But 10 billion Ondo, that's scarce, right? That's what I'm looking at. I think that this asset could do some massive, massive damage to the upside as real world assets take over the space. I think there's going to be a 24/7 stock market. Why should there not be? The crypto market is. Why can't we have that in stocks, everybody? Why can't we have that in stocks? I think that's the next big play. Taxis turned into Venmo, turned into eventually will be self-driving cars. Stock market. Why do we trade from 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. to 3:30? That's going to be a thing of the past, and it's going to be soon. Eric Trump saying the other day, 10 years. He gives the banks 10 years. If they don't catch on to what is taking over in this space, they're going to be in trouble and out of a business model. That was what Eric Trump said on the news just yesterday. Very, very interesting to see. So you could go into the token unlocks and everything and, figure out here. They do have unlocks coming, on the January 1st, January 27th. So there's going to be a lot of, based on, year over year. So that's interesting. And, Foundation DAO, this is going to be, the founders and the people who vote on the platform. So 52% going to them. That's a lot. So I want to make sure that these people have a vested interest in this project. And I don't think, the team gets 33%. So I want to see them at least give us some confidence that they're not going to be dumping on people. Is that a risk? Absolutely. This is a $3 billion market cap coin. $3 billion, right? Oh, $3 billion. So could it get dumped? 2.9 billion. So the odds of this thing 10xing, it's possible. It's very, very possible. 100xing, it's not getting to a $3 trillion market cap. I'll tell you that. Not happening, right? Not happening. So you're not going to get 100x out of Ondo. If that's what you're looking for, you got to be looking way down the line, man, because Ondo is just too big in order to do that kind of multiple. That's sitting at 34, and I speak that for everything above Ondo as well. Sui's not 100xing, neither is, Ethereum or Bitcoin right now. None of these are 100xing, at least not this cycle. So, and unless we entered a state of massive hyperinflation and we had a financial crisis that the government had to print massive amounts, multi-million-dollar bills, because then at that point, who cares if everything's worth millions of dollars if our dollar's worth absolutely nothing? So interesting. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at for Ondo. Sin Nasty Kid, thank you, man. Thank you. MH, what's going on? April, hey, I appreciate you being here. Reviews wants to look at virtuals. Yeah, absolutely. Virtuals has taken this space by storm, and we've talked about virtuals here, and I've advocated for virtuals being one of the hotter players in the game. I think AI is going to massively take over, and this week, virtuals comes in making a statement, making an absolute statement. Look at this. These are daily candles and taking out months, right, since the beginning of February. In just a few days, virtuals ripping to the upside, cracking above that daily 200 SMA in a very, very violent way. Look how overbought you are here on the RSI, and you could be overbought for a hot minute. Look at this. You were overbought here, had a little bit of consolidation. You overbought, and you kept ripping to the upside. There is severe demand for this project. I love how it's scarce as well. Look at this at virtuals climbing the rank. I don't even know where to look at right now for virtuals. Why? Because virtuals sitting at 69. I know some of you guys like that number. What's up, Sineska? I know you, man. I got you. All right, so yeah, virtuals making an absolute statement, sitting at 69 here on coin market cap, coming down here to just look at virtuals, and you do have a limited token supply of just a singular billion. If this does become the currency that acts as a mediary between different artificial intelligences that come out, and we could see that space is taking off. This move likely piggybacking off of the earnings report of Facebook and Meta that happened the other day that absolutely took the market by storm with the tariffs. They said, I don't care. Our AI cloud computing platform is selling massively, and economists undershot them by over $1 billion profit in Q1 of 2025. What are they looking at? That's crazy to me that they could miss an expectation like that. So I think virtuals is, this was the earnings report day. This was yesterday. And virtuals continuing its rip to the upside of about 20% since then. You're above the daily 200 SMA. I am bullish on virtuals now. Are we just going to keep ripping the upside? Likely, no. Could we? Yes. Likely? No. You're likely to get some kind of consolidation, right? Eventually, somebody's going to come and take profits here. It's just a reality. Any leverage trader that got in here that isn't taking profits and at least taking their initial risk off the table is absolutely, doing themselves a disservice and just playing a gambling game. And that's not what we play here on the Boys Crypto channel. So what I see here for virtuals is likely, and we don't know what it's going to look like. It could be a flag that looks like this, or if you're really bullish on virtuals, you could get an upward sloping looming bull pennant that could further break to the upside on in a very, very parabolic way to go and revisit the highs, or not the highs, but to go revisit that $3 range. I think it's very, very likely for virtuals. I would keep this on my radar. You're making a higher high on the local time frames, and you could argue that this wick was your higher low. I'm not really going to buy that right now. Until we see continued price action, I'd like to see some kind of consolidation here above the daily 200 SMA. And you can look at it on the 5-minute time frame. I don't like how we're losing the, the 200 right here. But things do rotate, right? Things do rotate. Look at this move on the daily. Does this not remind you of Sui? So Sui, got a little bit of Sui. You guys hear that? My uvula? Oh my gosh. Sui, right, consolidating here on the daily, had that massive run. I think this is likely to do the same thing that virtual is likely to begin here. I think this flag here on the daily is likely to persist here for the Sui network. I think this is going to be one of the hottest coins this bull market, and it's not going to be just straight up, and it's painful to hear. It's not going to be straight up. Bitcoin just consolidated in a flag like this and got the break to the upside, and you're sitting just underneath the point of control, likely to have some kind of contention here. This high volume node's been sitting since back here in late February. I think this thing could do some massive damage to the upside, but we're going to get some consolidation. I'd love to see this daily 200 SMA hold at 322. If we do not get that hold right there, I think that we could potentially, at worst case scenario, get a retest of this resistance, support, resistance, flip, resistance, support, resistance. If we do come back down, that would be the area that I'd be looking to get in a nice juicy leverage play on Sui, right? Get in here, stop loss on a swing long for the entire bull run, baby, beneath that low, and look to target at least the all-time high. My price targets for Sui are sitting up at about $15. I think I got it here on the chart, don't I? I do. Boys Crypto 2025 year-end prediction. This could be a juicy 10-to-1 risk-reward ratio setup. And, Sui's going to move, man. It's going to move. I'm not saying just to the upside. You're going to have downward moves as well. Like today, you had a massive downward move for Sui. Like as the market, struggled in the back half as Bitcoin started to pull back, earlier this was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. But, Sui had some issues. It is what it is. You lost to 1 hour 200 SMA, but you're so look at the daily. You didn't even cross it. Look at the 21 coming up the price action. I see this likely coming in. This is an area of interest for me. For Sui, anywhere in between here and 280. You could, to me, if it were me and I was not positioned in Sui already, I would stack limit orders in here. I would say, hey, I'm gonna get some now, here, and here. And if we dip, you gotta consider it a gift. I think this thing is going to be one of the biggest performers here in this 2025 bull run, in the altcoin run. I think this thing has some massive potential. I think you could potentially see a top 7 or 6 cryptocurrency that is in the making right here. Just go back and look at what Solana did back in 2021. I do love pulling up that chart. No one expected it. Catching everybody with their pants down here on Coinbase, baby. Here on Coinbase, you had that massive run up, consolidation down at the lows, and here you were. And from the lows here, you went on a cataclysmic 6-month 10x, or 165 days. That's 6 months, right? A 10x for Solana. And you went up, you consolidated, and then you had that final blow off top, and then you consolidated, and then you went up again, right? You went up again, and you had that blow off top at almost $300 for Solana, trying to get that reversal here to the upside. We'll see. I don't remember why I drew those lines, but yeah, Solana had a cataclysmic run, right? And how did it start? Right? How did it start? Let's zoom on in here. You get above the daily 200 SMA. You get above the daily 200 SMA. You're a little far from the 21. 21 comes into price action and supports you the entire run. Look at that. That's your 21 moving average. The 21 moving average was your perfect entry once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5. How many opportunities do people want? Right? Throughout the entire rip to the upside, that 21 moving average, so important to me. I learned that from Sam Price, man. Shout out to the crypto lifer, man. He's an absolute legend in the space. Shout out to the lifers, the 99 that are in here with me as well. Wow, what a move. What a move for Solana. And I see something very, very similar brewing in the Sui charts. Not only that, let's look at this. whenever you want to look at your asset and you're like, hey, boys, crypto, how's my asset performing? You could look at price, or you could do if you're looking at how it performs comparatively to the other cryptos in the market, you could type in your asset and then put .d. It says market cap dominance, right, in percentage. And here you go. Does it look a lot like the chart? Sure, for Sui it does, right? But it does not all the time. You had this immaculate flag here on the daily. You broke out to the upside. Look at the 21 coming up in the price action. When you're looking at this, there's going to be percentages on the side. This is just a percent of the entire crypto market cap. So on dumps, you could get pumps on this. It's not necessarily correlated with price. And when altcoin season takes off, I think Sui can be a massive player in the space. I think he could get up to a 2, potentially even 3% market cap dominance. And we're currently sitting at about 0.4. I think this thing is a monster in the making, everybody. A monster in the making. Look at the weekly, zooming on out, the weekly with that massive. To me, if you had that massive weekly, right, and you didn't think that you thought we were just going to have another massive weekly and then another massive, price action doesn't work like that. You're going to get some consolidation, some cool off, take a big deep breath. It's hard not to get caught up in the euphoria of these markets. And it happens in all sorts of assets, and assets that come to mind. XCN, HBAR, right, was a very, very hyped asset. You know, HBAR, you know, people were hyped here and they chased green candles, and everyone who did got absolutely smacked in the face, right? On the daily, you know, you had some severe daily bearish divergence here that formed, and that was screaming that you weren't going to crack that high before you cracked. You just did, barely. But this bearish divergence did take you down. You had triple bearish divergence on HBAR on the daily time frame, quadruple, and you know that was ignored here. That was ignored, and that was likely going to bring you to the downside to crack this low. To crack this low before you crack this high, you almost got there, but the reaction is what matters, everybody. So it's just an example. With that being said, just quickly looking at HBAR. HBAR getting above that daily 200 SMA is going to be the key for a continued rally to the upside. Did come back to a key retrace, I'll bet. Who wants to think that's a 618786 golden pocket Fibonacci retracement from the swing low to the high, coming back in, almost touching that 786. It got front run, gets front run a lot. That's why on this Bitcoin dominance chart, I know I'm all over the place. I'm just so excited about this market, everybody, and I didn't have my Capri Sun. But yeah, this is why I think this 786 will get front run to the downside for Bitcoin dominance. It all kind of goes hand in hand, everybody, hand in hand. All right, diving on into the charts, everybody. Diving on, or not in the charts, into the chat. Hey, MH, I appreciate you saying that, brother. Reviews, that's virtuals in a nutshell, man. I would expect some kind of consolidation. I have to. Am I bullish on the project? I think this thing could get to a monumental market cap, man. I think this could be a $10, $20 coin in the making. I do, but I don't think it's going there overnight. I don't. I really do expect some kind of consolidation, and you know, yeah, you got to get some kind of consolidation. With that being said, you're making higher highs, higher lows. You got a nice upward sloping channel, and it's been respected so far. Upward sloping channel. You know, you can say you deviated above it. You didn't get a full candle body closure above it. That'd be a nice upward sloping channel. Maybe even a broadening bullish horn right there. But I'm going to struggle to get behind that idea. And each time, you know, this pullback is going to be a little steeper. That's a 12% pullback just to test the bottom of that trend line at about $1.56. And I'd still be insanely bullish on the asset. So that's what I'm looking at here. As long as, this is what I would say for virtuals. As long as you don't start closing candles beneath $1.36. And I know that's crazy. You're like, boys, crypto, it's at $1.76. $1.36 is so far beneath where we are. It's not. Not when you're looking at the daily or the 4-hour. $1.36 is right here. Right? And you're just looking at a couple 4-hour candles. That's the craziness of these massive moves to the upside. Now, could it keep going? Anything is possible, but virtuals, I think is very, very likely to consolidate. I think this is one of the hottest projects of the year. I do own virtuals, and I think that this thing is going to do some massive damage to the upside, baby, to the upside. We were trading virtuals, got some scalps in here in this range. I remember we took advantage of that move, made some nasty profits on that one. That was like a 168% trade. These two candles right here, I do remember that. That was massive when we were calling the bottom at 43. Look at that. In 2 days, a 43% pump. That's these candles are massive for virtuals. So with that being said, the massive candles, you have to expect massive volatility here in the short term after 2 weeks of straight pumpage to the upside. The Stokes are cooked. The RSI is cooked. Could this keep going? Absolutely. But the more you press to the upside, right, the more likely you are going to get a either consolidation or a pullback, right? Just something to keep in mind. And XCN is a great example, right? XCN, when we had that monumental XCN run way back in the day, XCN, I just got to look at this real quick. XCN on the 1 hour, let's zoom on back to when it had its meteoric run. This meteoric run here. Why does this not look right? XCN. We'll look at it on Kraken on the US. So this is what I'm talking about right here. So you could get continuation on virtual. Does this not look like virtual / SUI right now? Right? You get above that daily 200 SMA, you could be gone. But eventually you're going to get to a point of consolidation where the 21 needs to catch up the price action. You have a flag. You're going to flag, right? And these are 1 hour candles. This was a monumental move for XCN. Flag to the upside. You know, a little bit, you break under the smaller time frames. We're just looking in history here. Looking in history. You get a little bit of consolidation. Get a little bit of consolidation, and you can move further to the upside, right? All these little flags that formed down in here represented great opportunities to get into a project. You had a flag here. They went for a stop hunt, and then they ripped it to the upside. So there were also bigger flags that were in play here as well. A false breakout, and then you did have this upward sloping support line that did break to the upside. You could have taken that flag right here. This one, the measured move, taking you all the way up to target, right here at almost a high. And then you did get more consolidation. Another flag, baby. Another flag. You got this swing. Woo! I would say this is more of an inverted shoulder, head, right shoulder. You guys see that? Shoulder, head, right shoulder, you know, a little bit of a retest, and then boom to the upside, also going to target. It's going to do these bullish patterns over and over and over again until what? Until they don't. Until they don't. You flagged again here on the daily and it fell out the bottom. You fell out the bottom of a bullish pattern like that and you go on some kind of a stop hunt. Look at this. Everybody who chased XCN late, you had a 1 hour 31% loss on your investment. And then, you know, you never really recovered, did you? No, not really. Not really. You got this pump, and you can say, oh, boys, crypto, this was a bigger flag. I'd struggle to get behind that idea, you know, the M pattern there, but then they ripped it to the upside. So anything could happen. My point being, anything could happen here in trading. And going back to the, you know, this is the run back here in April. And why do I think this ran harder before? Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. This was the example I was looking for. Flag to the upside, flag to the upside, flag to the upside. You'll flag until you don't. And then there's some massive consolidation to follow. Just something to keep in mind. Just something to keep in mind. Man, you guys got me sweating on with passion for crypto, baby. All right, diving on in. Virtuals. Yeah, we went over virtuals. Do I think Soros is going to go up? I'll be honest. Soros, I don't know anything about the project, man. I'll be honest. I don't know anything about the Soros. Good night. My lady took all my good friends for school. She left me with the crappy ones. All right, Soros. Let's dive on in here. Let's look on the daily. Whenever you get lost in a chart, you just hit that A and it'll refix you, guys. It'll refix you. All right. Wow. What is this, man? What is this? On the daily, Soros. What a move. Okay, so from back all of March, this thing pumped to Valhalla. Yeah, I don't know if you guys know this is Viking. That's Viking heaven, I think. I don't know. I don't know much about the Vikings, but all right, this thing pumped massively. And look at these wicks. Just based off of the extension that this has right now, it's not something I'd be willing to touch on, you know, with my funds right now. Why? Just because the downside risk is too great. Why? You know, Sin Nasty Kid, shout out to you, man. Housecoin's a great example. Sin Nasty Kid got in at half a penny. If I got in at, 10 cents, just the other day when we were talking about it, I would be down 30% of my investment right now. And that was in a day or 2 days. Not looking for that. So you could come down, and even just a small pullback like that would be 38%. The downside risk is just too high. For me, with that being said, you've had immaculate buy pressure as evidenced by that wick. You have a giant flag here forming. If this thing cracks to the upside, and stochastics reset, let's look at it on the 4 hour. Your 4 hour 200 SMA is getting very, very tight. Look what happened the last time you did. You got consolidation above the 4 hour 200 SMA, and the 21 was with you. 21 was with you. Flag up, stop hunt, flag up. And now you're in a bigger flag. 21 and the 200 are coming tight. I don't want to see you lose that 4 hour 200 SMA. I think the potential for another move to the upside is there. and it could be monumental. But the risk appetite is just a little too much for me at this point, man. And as Kevin O'Leary says on Shark Tank, and for that reason, I'm out. And I think it's so funny when they look at him. And for that reason, I'm just not a stock guy. For that reason, I'm out. And then they play that real weird music in the background. Super funny. I love that show, man. I love that show. It's crazy what people can invent off the dome. It's wild. Shout out to any of you guys who are inventors. I have to pitch an invention idea to my lady at least once a week. I've never followed through on any of them, but they are good. I promise you. All right, here we go. So that does look good to the upside, make it a little cleaner here with a little bit of consolidation, something I am seeing, a little bit of maybe potential shoulder head. Yeah, you're stretching, but a little bit of a right shoulder out of this to the upside, potentially. I want to see that 4-hour 200 SMA hold. I like when the moving averages are getting very tight. Looks good for Soros here. I can't guarantee you that it's going to move to the upside, but I can give you the probabilities. To me, the probability is that the bull flag says yes, but to me, you've had a monumental 10x. And I just can't get behind anything like that. I'd have to wait for some more consolidation, man, on the bigger time frames like the daily. And you could say, oh, boys, crypto, it has been consolidated on the daily. It could move. It could definitely move. Just something I choose to stay on the sidelines with, man. I appreciate you keeping that. Look how overbought you got. You never see that green. Never see it that green. Besides XRP when it went on its monumental run from 50 cents to about $3. But yeah, that's crazy. Shout out to you, man. If you got into Soros, what a monumental move. Another big mover like Altcoin this cycle. All right. Diving on in. Reviews. I win some virtuals yesterday. Yeah, I already TP and you're waiting for it to cool off. Reviews. I'm glad you said that, man. Yeah, virtuals. I remember you saying that you were getting into virtuals. And there's nothing wrong with doing a little DCA action here, baby. A little DCA action. It is what it is if you're going to be a long-term holder of any project. I think on the altcoins, if you're not buying now, if you're not at least nibbling now, you can miss out on some of the best prices that you've ever seen. And arguably, when were we getting into the altcoins? Does everybody remember when we were getting into the altcoins? When we were averaging in our total 3 crypto box of remembrance, we were averaging in here and here. This was when we were getting into the altcoins, right? And now total 3 consolidating above our box of remembrance. We're not averaging in the altcoins anymore because this community was already in at lower prices, baby. Already in at lower prices, specifically Sui. Bang. This thing could turn around. This cracks above the 200 MA. Why is it called the box of remembrance? Because this community, we're all going to look back. We're all going to get together sometime out in Vegas or something. And we're going to look back and we're going to be like, wow, look at this box of remembrance. You can barely read it. It's so small. Look at that box. It was so small when we're sitting up here at a $2.5 trillion market cap, which I think the altcoins can definitely get to this cycle. I think this could be a monumental move for the altcoins before we have that blow off top and we go into the bear market before we go into the next one. So that's going to take a couple of years to play out, and I think this move will be a lot more parabolally. I think this move will happen. Do I think we're going to get up to $2.5 trillion and we're going to stay there for 10 years? No. It's going to look like, I can almost guarantee you guys it's going to look like this. We get an altcoin run, it's going to look like this. It's going to look like this, and it's going to be playing a game of chicken to see who hits the sell button first. Have an exit plan on whatever coin you're holding. Make sure I'm going to take profit at $2, and then I'm going to take 10% at $2, and then $2.20, and then $5, and then $10. Just have a plan, and at least if you double or triple or quadruple your investment, if you don't take out your initial investment, I don't know what to tell you guys. I don't know, protect yourself as a trader. Anything can happen, especially you're involved in the highest risk market that there is, crypto, baby. And besides that, you got junk bonds and junk stocks. Those are the only things that compare to crypto, right? In my opinion. And you can even go further to say that I'd say crypto is even more volatile than that. You get into the meme coins. I think that's the most volatile thing you can trade. Name me an asset that's more volatile than meme coins. I can't do that. Crazy. All right, diving on in the chat, baby. Oh. Hold on, I need to yell real quick. Babe, can you get me some water? My UV was dry. Thank you, my love. Thank you. All right, cool. Got the lady coming in. Maybe we could get her on camera. She's super gorgeous. I think it would double my views, triple my views, quadruple my views. Maybe even I could get like a paid subscription kind of thing if she showed herself on the camera. I'm telling you, she's so gorgeous, everybody. Drop dead gorgeous. All right, here we go. All right, everybody. All right. All right. Not that you'd be interested in this nasty kid. I know how you are, man. All right, here we go. Here we go. All right. Yeah, reviews. Hey, I'm proud of you, brother. I'm proud of you. Sui pump yesterday was whales, but retail didn't join to push it further. Yeah. Hey, yeah. That's an opinion reviews for sure. I just think the technology is awesome. It does things better, cheaper and more efficient than both Ethereum and Solana. I think that ecosystem is very, very young and has a long way to go. Sin Nasty Kid wants to look at SEI, the gaming token, man. The gaming token that was supposed to be the Sui competitor. And what, crazy to see where it is right now. It's supposed to be competing with Sui and, at the lows. That's wild. So what I am seeing on the weekly is consolidation here. Thank you, my dear. I appreciate you. Dang, you got pain everywhere. That's all I'm talking about. You were getting after it today. I love you. All right. Here, oh, man, she got me this big cup. That's what I'm talking about. Gotta stay hydrated. You guys know what I mean? I'm telling you guys, I drink so much water during this stream that afterwards, when I get done and I start peeing, I sit there for like 10 minutes and it's a constant stream. It's wild. All right, here we go. On SEI, getting the reversal out of the bottom of what appears to be a descending wedge. These break up, the base of the wedge, 68% of the time. To me, too early to say. This is the weekly. This is gonna take a long time to play out, potentially the end of 2026. These are weekly candles. It could take some time. It could take some massive time here for SEI. Getting the reversal, the stochastics look really good, pointing violently in the upward direction. That being said, if altcoin season does begin and Sui can get back above this key support resistance area for the entire length of Sui's life, this has been a critical zone right here, and here, right? And even as you battled with it here, you fell beneath. It is very, very critical that SEI reclaims that 25-cent level here in the near term. I think that is very, very key for SEI to resume his bullish structure. Donald Trump, World Liberty Financial holds this coin. I kind of disagree. I know there was a lot of team selling back here. To me, the way I look at it, man, if I owned a crypto, and I don't, if I owned a crypto and I was a team member and I started selling my coin, that tells me to the community that I don't truly believe in its upward potential. Just the way I view team selling, and I get some people got to sell, some people got to sell to keep the lights on, and I get like that, but not that massive amount like that was coming these couple of weeks here. It was a couple of days that was just mass. Yeah, this was team selling right here. I do remember that back here on December 9th. It was kind of nasty here. A lot of team selling. You broke through the daily 200 SMA, and to me, that's the reason where we are right now. Is SEI going to respond? I don't know. But if you guys don't know how to find, you can look up Whale Tracker on X. It's really, really cool. It's a paid program, but it will tell you whenever teams or any big wallets are selling large amounts of altcoins, and you can see where it comes from. Very, very interesting. Or you can see when they transfer them to Binance or anything like that. That if somebody transfers from their cold wallet to Binance, they're not doing that to buy. They're doing that to sell, right? And that's why I disagree with Winter Mute and all that kind of stuff that Binance does. But I digress. That being said, SEI looks good. It looks good out of the reversal. Let's see what we can see on the smaller time frames here, man. You're flagging out. Flag, pump, flag. Let's see if we can get that push to the upside here for SEI out of this 2-hour flag. And, just over the course of this stream, how long have we been streaming? An hour and 40 minutes. You guys are absolutely legendary for pushing this thing along. I appreciate you guys, each and every single one of you guys, for being here and sharing your passion with crypto here for me on this Friday night, baby. Everybody else out there at the club doing the whip nay, and we're in here getting the hottest setups going on into the weekend and the week ahead. SEI looks good for a potential push to the upside out of this flag. You're going to keep flagging and pushing until you don't, and that brings you up to that key support resistance flip zone. I would see a little bit of turbulence around here. That if I was a scalp trader, and I am, baby, and I'm not going to be scalping here on the weekend that much. I'm just going to be focusing on my Ondo trade right here. That will represent a really juicy 2.4 to 1 risk reward ratio with the stop beneath the 1 hour 200 SMA and the high volume node right here. That looks juicy, baby. That looks juicy to me to the upside. So that looks very, very good for SEI. I appreciate that. So speaking of what's to come this week, man, I know we went over it in the stream. Absolutely, Monday, Tuesday, to me, nothing burgers. I think the entire world market's going to be waiting on the United States and the FOMC meeting. And more importantly, the chicken gizzard guy with the beard, the chicken gizzard guy with the, strange looking Adam's apple, Jerome Powell. If you guys have never seen this guy before, Jerome Have you guys ever seen these? You guys ever see these? Oh man, they have me rolling all the time. This is one I see a lot. That big machine gun money printer thing. Oh yeah, print it, baby, print it, Jerome, print it. Yeah, it's funny, man. I love it. But that's what Jerome Powell looks like. Whenever he looks up, he has a very strange looking Adam's apple. You know, very rarely does he look up, but it's very rooster like. So we'll see what Jerome Powell has to say coming out on Wednesday. Again, expecting nothing, and though we're expecting nothing on rate hikes or rate change, the people are going to overreact, right? In one way, shape, or the other. Everybody's going to come in with the news. Oh, what if the FOMC, what if they do cut rates and I go open up a 200x position and I become a millionaire in like 10 seconds? Could it happen? It happened in Japan last year. Could happen. But, that 1% is only going to hit, 1 out of 100 times? Very unlikely. What we're going to be waiting for is 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday, May 7th, which is going to be a key day for the entire world to see how the United States is going to manage their fiscal policy going on into the summer, right? Going on into the summer. And we're still pricing in 2 rate cuts by the end of the year. Could we get more? Absolutely. But based off the data that we got today, adding 50,000 jobs over the course of the month, why would he cut rates? The only reason he would cut rates is to, bend over backwards for Donald Trump. And we know that those guys aren't friends. So I highly doubt that that's like, Donald Trump wants him to cut rates. Of course he does, right? He's heavily invested in the market, and cryptos rate cuts are going to be bullish for the market. And eventually, let me talk to you guys about this. There's going to be a tipping point. You guys ever hear the saying, bad news becomes good news, right? Bad news becomes good news, and good news becomes bad news. That point happens when people are starting to anticipate more rate cuts. Because if we start getting bad economic news, in one way, it's like, crap, that's bad for the economy. But on the back of your mind, you got to be like, but we could get rate cuts. So that's what that's what we want to listen for. We want to hear little hints, tidbits of Fed Chair Jerome Powell's perspective on the economy, because this man's decision and that panel's decision to be able to cut rates, if they decide to do it more this year, that's going to be incredibly bullish for market. Cheaper borrowing, not just here in the United States, but abroad across the world, as people run into the markets in the United States to get cheaper rates on their money to be able to reinvest in the market, and for banks to be able to take advantage of that. And rate, it's so awesome, man, when you get rate cuts. But you start getting tightening in the, in federal policy, as we've seen since the beginning of January, and in combination with the tariffs and tight monetary policy, don't often go hand in hand, and haven't gone hand in hand in our history. So that does concern me. And we don't know a lot about the trade war. When was the last time we heard news about the trade war? I don't hear Trump tweeting or anything. They say we're in talks with China. China says, no, we're not. It's just a he said, she said thing. So yeah, I'm very, very interested to hear what Jerome Powell has to say here at 2:30. And we'll also see credit card debt. That's going to be very, very interesting. That's going to be very, very, very interesting. So we'll see. All right, yeah, month-over-month consumer credit, that's going to be very interesting. All right, or not month-over-month, for the quarter. So yeah, SEI looks good. Another prime setup, looking very, very good into the weekend. This is Thursday, Friday, consolidation coming down to that high-volume node area, the 200 creeping up, with stochastics reset on the 1 hour, the 4 hour, the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4 hour all say, hey, this thing's about to go, Nasty Kid. Thanks for putting that on our radar, man. I appreciate you. Be careful around that 24, 25 cent level, man. That's that support resistance flip on the macros. We zoom on out here. When in doubt, zoom out. That's going to be that level right here that you've messed with multiple times over the life of this cryptocurrency. So to not expect turbulence right there would be doing yourself a disservice. So that'd be a very, very juicy trade that I'd be looking at going on into the weekend. Again, low volatility, anything can happen, but that's something that's looking a little hotter than the rest of the coins on my radar. Thank you. All right, Nasty Kid. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I keep waiting for April to hit you in the head every day. April waiting to hit me in the head. Hey, man. It's usually not in the head. It's usually in the stomach or the lower back or the calves, depending on what kind of tool I'm playing. She's very loving. She's very lovely. All right, okay. Oh, and her mom's watching, too. That's crazy. Wanted to help. Well, help. All right, here we go. Yes, Nasty Kid. Hey, man, yes. Have a great day. Safe weekend. Hey, thanks, Nasty Kid. You too, man. I appreciate you. The storms in Texas has been really bad. Yeah, man, it's been absolutely crazy. I'm pretty sure we got hail earlier. It's been wild. My garden got absolutely wiped out the other day. Hey, this is looking good here, man. What is happening for BTC? Let's dive on into it real quick before we head on out of here for the night. Getting a little bit of a pump a lump, are we not? Are we? A little bit of a pump here on the 15-minute time frame. You know what? Based off of those bubbles, Dominance has started to roll here over the course of, and you don't say, oh, boys, crypto, that's not a lot. That's only like, 0.16%. For dominance, that's pretty severe given the, and it's not severe. But this is how it starts. This is how it starts, right? You got a little shoulder, head, right shoulder action, break it. I don't want to say that, but a little too early to tell, right? And, eventually there's going to be a top for this thing. I'm telling you guys, I think one of these, I'm going to put a drawing on the chart and we're going to have looked at it on the stream and it'll be like, that was it. I'm confident. And I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep doing this here until I see a drawing. Like, until we get up to here and my thesis is invalidated, I'm going to keep drawing these little things. And I'm going to lock this, man. I'm going to lock this. I'm going to be like, hey, this could have been a top, right? I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying that is a potential, right? Like, that could have been the top for Bitcoin dominance right there. It could have been. And I'm not saying it is, but how does it start? You start playing 200 MA dominoes to the downside. Everybody knows how we play that game. You break the 1, you come to the 3. You break the 3, you come to the 5. We broke the 5, we're going to go to the 7. We broke the 7, where are we going? To the 15. The 15 is substantially down here at about 64.74. And then because of the severity of the pump over the last 2 years, these moving averages are very, very widely spaced out. So you could get that dump very, very quickly based off of the moving average theory that you're going to continue to test them and see if they, look at this. Let's see. We got a bearish divergence. Yeah, we still have bearish divergence here on the daily. On the 4 hour, you definitely have bearish divergence here on the 4 hour. Let me clear this out. Last thing we're going to look at before we head out into the night, everybody, just Bitcoin dominance here, just theorizing. I'm not saying this. Oh, yeah, I locked that. All right, so bearish divergence, a swing up on the on price action while you have this swing down / swing across on the RSI. That is starting to deviate a little bit, something that we're going to track over the course of the next few days, suggesting you crack this low before this high. This weekend could be the start, and that 4 hour bearish engulfing candle starting to form here, that could be the beginning of the toppling of Bitcoin dominance. Is it going to be? We'll see. But it's going to take some time. Only time will tell. And I'm not calling the top for Bitcoin dominance. I think the likelihood of us coming up that 618 is very, very likely. However, with that being said, you can turn around anytime in the golden pocket. So we'll see if that 786 is going to get front ran. Thank you for you looking at long XCI. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thank you guys. I appreciate each and every single one of you for diving on in here with me on your Friday night, man. On your Friday night, you guys are absolutely awesome. I appreciate all the love and the support you send my way every single week as we dive on in to the hottest assets in the game this past hour, getting a little bit of a pump in the day, turning around on the day, turning around here a little bit. We'll see how it goes on into the weekend. Be careful opening up leverage trades here on the weekend. As I said, the volume is very, very low, so price is easily manipulated by individuals that hold or whales that hold large amounts of cryptocurrency. So keep that in mind. Much love to each and every single one of you. Thank you for joining me for tonight's show. I will see you guys tomorrow on the live. Much love. Until then, boys, crypto is out, baby. We are out. Much love. Have a great weekend, everybody. Take a little break from the chart. Rest those eyes. Go out, play a sport or something. All right. Much love.